Hey guys, it's Andy here with another comprehensive-ish camera review. I know last time I did a camera review, I was in Singapore with the new Sony a7III. Well, now I'm in, well, Dallas, my hometown. Not quite as exciting as Singapore, but I'm here with the new Sony a7III. Now, this is the camera that everybody is saying is the best all-around camera ever. So we're gonna put it through what I'm hoping is a really thorough test. And then all the images will be available on andystravelblog.com if you want to take a look at some full-size samples. But anyways, let's get to it with our first test. So one of the things everybody says about this camera, and the reason they're so excited about it, it's got a 24 megapixel sensor, but it shoots at 10 frames per second, and it uses the autofocus system from the Sony a9. So whereas like the Canon 6D Mark II has like 18 or whatever autofocus spots, this thing has 693, and it covers 93% of the sensor. So I got some help from my friend Jamie. Say hi to the camera, Jamie.
Hi.
Okay, so Jamie's gonna do some running, I'm gonna do some shooting, and we're gonna see, and the light's getting kind of low, so we'll see how the ISO handles, we'll see how the autofocus handles. And poor Jamie, she just got done with a long run, and I'm gonna make her run some more, but it's all for the video, so she's on board. So let's get to it. So here I am kind of waving the camera around, and there's Jamie, she's getting ready to go. I have this set on single shot accidentally. Sorry, I'll fix that in a second. Put it on 1/400th of a shutter speed, just enough to freeze her. She wasn't going to be sprinting. But you can see it's already picked up her face, and no matter where I'm moving it on the frame, you see the autofocus. Well, okay, I lost her for a second there, but wherever it can see her face, it latches on pretty quickly. So I had her start running. She slipped because it was muddy. And then I just started taking pictures, and yeah, pretty easy, pretty responsive. Now, as you can see from the pictures, every single one of them was in focus. I was going to do this thing where I pointed out that only 60 or 70% were focused, but they kind of were all in focus. So I went back and went ahead and changed my drive speed to continuous shooting high. That means I was going 10 frames a second, got her back in position, went ahead and got the autofocus going, and then you can tell the difference. This is what it looks like shooting 10 frames a second. And you can see the autofocus stayed on her for nearly every shot. I mean, as we look through these, I mean, it was pretty much rock solid, kind of boring almost to have every single shot in focus. Okay, so I think the sports test went well. Now let's see how this handles a landscape image or kind of a cityscape image. So I'm here at one of my favorite spots in Dallas by the Trinity River. We're gonna take a picture of Dallas back there. And this will be good. I mean, it's a standard shot. I've taken shots like this before. I've taken shots like this on the a7R3, but I just need to prove it to you. We got to be thorough. So we're going to do a cityscape shot. May end up being a long exposure. See what happens. So I went back to ISO 100 because I'll be honest, I love ISO 100. Who doesn't? And I needed to unsports the camera. So very quickly using the function key, I was able to put it in single shot mode, and then I switched it back to 2-second timer just because I shot this with a 70 to 200. And it was going to have some camera wobble just because of how it sat on my tripod. Hopefully you can agree, it's a great view. Anyways, so you can see the plane flying in. I should have caught that. I went ahead and went to f8 just to capture some awesome sharpness. And then I noticed the reflection of the sunset in the building was getting a little hot. With the Sony electronic viewfinder, what you see is what you get. So I dialed in a little bit of exposure compensation downward there because I can recover the shadows later. And this is the image that we ended up with. Okay, so it's getting dark, we're getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, but oh my gosh, the images from this camera, like the sharpness and the crispness of those images, simply phenomenal. Dynamic range was good. I'm showing you the edited pictures, but even just looking at it on the back of the camera, unbelievable image quality. So it definitely passes the landscape/cityscape test. So what do we do next? I was thinking about the a7III, I was thinking about what test we could do next, and then it hit me. Food photography. And also using a lens from another manufacturer. So one of the things about the Sony Alpha cameras, hold that over here, the Sony Alpha cameras, you can adapt almost any type of lens to it. And specifically with like Canon and Sigma and Tamron lenses, you're able to maintain like native autofocus, allegedly, when you use an appropriate adapter. So here is what I have. I have the Canon 100mm f2.8L macro lens, and I have a Sigma MC11 Canon to Sony adapter. So going to attach this here, and there we go. So it at least attaches. I think it's going to work well. But why did I choose the macro lens? Well, macro lenses, they don't generally autofocus that well. Or they do, it just takes them a while because they have so many different like T-stops and focal lengths, and you lose a lot of light depending on how close you are to the subject. So I figured that would be a good test for the Sony. I'm used to shooting macro lenses. I have the Sony 90mm macro and I love it. So it's great for food photography. It'll be great to test out the sharpness of this. And I thought it would just be another in this comprehensive test of not only food photography, not only macro photography, but doing it with a lens from another manufacturer on the Sony a7 III. Let's see how it works. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I wanted to make this a natural light shot, not use any of my studio lighting equipment, but I'm also kind of lazy. So what I'm gonna do is I have my chair right here. I have a piece of wood that my buddy Doc made for me that I can use as kind of a board. And then all I have to do is just open these blinds up a little bit and we'll get some nice natural light. So that's gonna be the plan. This piece of board that I'm using, it's actually quite heavy. So I grabbed my trusty kettlebell because I know I'm not the only one who has a kettlebell in my kitchen, so I can do kettlebell swings while I'm cooking. So let's get this board set up. And put the kettlebell to weigh it down. And now let's shoot some macaroons. So you can see I haven't hit the focus button yet, and now I'm gonna hit it, and bam, nearly instantly locked on. Now, you're going to see it come in and out of focus. That's because I'm moving around because I was squatting down. And I'm at f2.8 on a macro lens. It's just a very narrow depth of field. But I'm adjusting some things here, and I accidentally had almost a stop lower of exposure compensation, so I had to edit these a little bit. But you can see that the image, or the autofocus, it's locking on immediately. It's continuous autofocus as well. And credit where it's due, the Canon macro lens is absolutely amazing. I mean, these pictures are really good for just 5-second macaroon shots. Okay, first of all, there's a reason people typically don't shoot macro nor food photography from a handheld. They're usually either using a flash and doing it handheld, or they're using a tripod, so sorry about the jitteriness there. But I think the a7 III handled it really well. I was impressed with how quickly it caught on for the focus point. Sometimes it was searching back and forth, and I couldn't quite get the point that I wanted. That's kind of macro photography though, and you can use the focus limiter on the lens, or you can just go into manual focus as well to get the shot that you want. So for what it is, I think it went really well. I think using natural light gave the pictures a more authentic feel, maybe. I don't know. The pictures turned out sharp, so I think it passed the test. Not only the food photography test, not only the macro photography test, but the using a lens from another manufacturer test. Now, if you're wondering if this whole thing was just a ploy to give me an excuse to get some margarita flavored macarons, then, I mean, you're not wrong. But anyways, let's go to the next test. There's one last test that I want to do, and sorry if my voice sounds a little shot. I feel like I'm getting sick, which is not good because I'm traveling soon. But I also took, I think, 170 headshots of people today for a charity thing, and I'm just beyond exhausted. But I need to finish this up before I have to give the camera back, so let's do it. A few of the things that people critique mirrorless cameras like the Sony a7 III for are battery life, which the Sony a7 III has pretty much solved, just like the a7R III, with a new battery that it takes, the 2.2 times as powerful battery than like the a7 II, for example. But one of the other things is general functionality in low light. People say the autofocus is really bad in low light for mirrorless cameras. And although Sony is recognized as a leader in low light sensitivity with like the a7S II, I still want to see how this is going to work. So what I'm going to do, you see how this is kind of lit up right now. I'm going to turn these lights as low as I can get them. This lens is at f1.4 right now. I'm going to turn it to like f5.6 and set the ISO to like 8,000. And then I'm going to have a remote in my hand, and I'm just going to hit shutter. And let's see what happens. I'm confident in the a7 III. I'm confident it's going to find my face. I wish I had a better model, but I don't. And I'm confident it's going to find my face. I'm confident it's going to handle the ISO really well. But ultimately, let's see how it handles. So as soon as I said I was going to put it on f8, okay, I left it at f1.4 just because I wanted to give the camera a chance I wanted to let in some light when it was trying to focus. But it's out of focus right now. It's not pre-autofocusing. I'm controlling it from my camera, and then I simply hit the shutter button, and bam, found my face, instantly recognized me. ISO 8008 bad. So I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Sony a7III. I tried to put it through its paces. We did sports, we did landscape / cityscape, we did food, macro with a third-party or non-native lens, and then we did low light with autofocus via a remote little trigger. So we put it through its paces pretty well. If you'd like to see the full size of these images, you can head on over to andystravelblog.com. I'll have a link in the description below and check out those full-size images. But most of all, I hope you really enjoyed this. I had a great time with the camera this weekend. Is it worth $2,000 though? That's what a lot of people are gonna ask. The answer is no. It's worth a lot more than $2,000. So if you're considering making the switch, be careful. Make sure you actually do want to make the switch for legitimate photography reasons. Make sure there's something your camera system cannot do right now, because odds are there's probably a camera in your system that can do similarly to what the a7III can do. But if you're looking to make the switch, I think the Sony a7III is probably the best case for switching in history. It's redefined what a basic camera is, because, well, the a7III is on par, with the exception of megapixels, with like the Canon 5D Mark IV, Nikon D850. It's even, like, it does certain things better than Sony's own a7R III. So there's a lot of things to love about the a7III. Hope you've enjoyed this. We will see you next time. Take care.